going on, everyone? It's time to review the first week of our weekly Challenger series and see what type of results we got. So we're going to go through just the overall leaderboard to start, and then I'll break down the data a little bit more. Please keep in mind this data is purely based off of the data set that we have. So that's everyone that completed the challenge. As we head into next week's challenge, feel free to invite some more people so we can get these greater data points and actually have even more to go off of. But to start, gents, I'm going to be honest, we got smoked this week. So the overall number one person on the leaderboard was none other than my sister, Brittany, with 143 seconds. So that was quite the hold. And she did take 3 attempts, I believe, over the course of the week, and she got a little bit better with it each time. Remember, you do have up until Thursday to adjust your score, Thursday at midnight. From there, the top male performer had 132 seconds. So as you can see, we had a good bit of challengers here. You can see all the different scores coming through as I scroll. And you can see how you ended up stacking up on our virtual leaderboard. Again, if you do not see your score on the leaderboard, it just means you didn't log to the leaderboard. It means you logged your training to your actual account, but you have to take one additional step to actually publish it on the leaderboard. And that's just the way the app, gives you that extra layer of you just want to score yourself, or if you want to actually compare to others. So I will drop those notes in again. You also should have got an email about the instructions on that. So please let me know if you have any questions. But here are the overall results that we saw for week number 1. Again, ladies took the top spot this week. Gentlemen will look to bounce back with next week's challenge. So what I did is I ran some value testing on the actual numbers, and this is what it came out to be based off the data we had. So I broke it down into the top 10 and top 50%. Due to my sister's freakish nature, I decided to calculate what it would be with her score in for the top 10 and top 50, and then also without her score in there, because you can see it was a little bit of an outlier for what we saw overall. So on the ladies' side, top 10% came out to 61.2 if you're not factoring in the top score, or 70 seconds if you're factoring in the top score. On the gentlemen's side, the men's side, 129 came out to be the top 10%. From there, top 50% was either 43 seconds or 41 seconds on the female side, and then 104.99 on the men's side. So you can kind of see how you stacked up. Granted, many different age ranges referenced here. So we had a bunch of different age groups involved with this, which is awesome. So these numbers are purely just based off of the data and the overall scores on that data. So take it as you wish. It's a fun way to look at it and see, what different age groups can do, what different people can do for a challenge. Like, when I was initially doing this challenge, I wanted to put a score on the leaderboard just so people had something to shoot for. And I had, 90 seconds in my head as kind of a threshold number. And it turned out that, people were able to go well past that as a threshold number. So that was really cool to see, that progress or that difference of, what I thought I would even see from this test, and even seeing the data come out a little bit differently. So why did we do this? What are we focusing on here? It focuses on your end range strength and stability. So we're really strong in the middle portion of a movement, but when you're either fully extended or really compact, like we were with this exercise, it's a little bit harder, a little bit more challenging. It's tougher to be in that end range. And it's something we don't always train that much. We get caught in kind of that middle range because it's a nice sweet spot for us. So, something to think about, keeping your end range in mind as you're doing your training. If you're involved in any sort of athletic endeavors, end range is really important. Think about swimming. You're reaching all the way overhead for a stroke. That's end range. If you're not strong in that position, you're not really getting the most out of your stroke until you get to the middle of it. Same thing with, a push down motion. Say if you're a climber, in the rock climbing world, you're going to be in all these different positions that are in extension, or really compact and have to be powerful in that. And then even with things like field sports, you're going to have to adapt to all these different positions that have, full range of motion involved, that are full extension and being really compact in different positions. So having the ability to have that strength and stability is, number one, an injury preventer, which is the first thing we want to focus on. If you can prevent injuries, you're going to be able to do what you like for longer, which is a really nice thing, right? If we're constantly training and then we get injured and have to sit out for a certain amount of time, like that's no fun. That's not progress as we're working, toward our ultimate goals. The next thing it's focusing on is proper body positioning. So a lot of people, when they see a push-up variation, they're like, oh, this is chest and arms, baby. That's what we're focusing on. When really a push-up, the limiting factor is going to be your body positioning. So what I mean by that is what happens from your shoulder all the way down to your knee joint. If there's any sort of breakdown that happens between your shoulder and your knee, you're not going to be able to maximize your pressing strength because you're basically not giving yourself something to push against. Your body is actually something you have to push against. Your torso is needed in that stability component so you can actually press and get the maximum value out of your push. If we look at linemen in the NFL, if they're not super strong and stable through their torso, it does not matter how much arm drive they have, they're not going to be able to move that defensive tackle. It's just not going to happen. Their body's going to wiggle too much and disperse force too quickly. Same thing if you're trying to make a change of direction or make a powerful movement with your upper body and all of a sudden your torso is just kind of flopping in the wind, you're not going to be able to express the strength that you truly have in your arms, your pec, in that sort of area, even your upper back, for example, without having that stability throughout your torso. So you kind of think of it as this column that allows you to press and pull against so you can complete movement. So not just chest and arms for this movement. It's a lot of body positioning, a lot of core stability. You definitely probably felt your triceps start to give out a little bit, your pec a little bit as well. But that breakdown could have happened a lot quicker without the proper body positioning. And then number 3, as you probably felt, you might have been about 20, 30 seconds in and wondered why in the world you were even completing this challenge. So there's that mental toughness component in there. And one thing I love about holds is they're a great way to build fatigue, get to a state of mental toughness where you have to kind of dig deep and tell your body not to give up without adding all this crazy repetition in. That's going to cause our joints to eventually feel not so great and kind of creaky and everything like that. One thing I love to do, especially with masters athletes, right, that we have a little bit more mileage on the body compared to our youthful selves, and we have to be strategic about this process. So if I can simulate fatigue with fewer repetition, then by all means, like that's an awesome training tool to have. So that's something to keep in mind. This exercise is focused on your end range, stability and strength, focused on how well you could hold proper body positioning while your limbs were involved in something, which happens throughout life and sport, right? And then mental toughness. How much could you turn off, your mind's willingness to give up and, get through that fatigue while maintaining the top 2 variables there. So how could you improve on this test, or what could you take from your training or adjust your training process if you're not so happy with your score? Number 1, focus on fuller range of motions. This is sometimes a harder thing to do with push-ups. If we can't complete an unassisted push-up, well, how do we get that more range of motion? You could take a bench and put your hands up on a bench or a couch. That allows you to go all the way down into full range of motion. You could put your knees on the ground and modify in that regard. But remember, whatever you do, hands up a little bit higher, knees on the ground, changing hand position, changing foot position. Remember that number 2 point of proper body positioning. As long as you're focusing on proper body positioning, then you're going to get some value out of whatever modification you use that allows you to get full range of motion with this movement. Number 2 is eccentrics are really good for this. So what I mean by that is that slow lower to the bottom. So I call them drop down push-ups. So you could start at the top and you do a 3 count down all the way to the floor while holding your body in that proper body positioning, that straight line that we're looking for. So that one, eccentrics, gives you time to really work on body awareness, which is the 3rd point. So a lot of this might just be, it's something new to you. It's not something you didn't think about at this level before. You're just like a push-up's a push-up. But, being aware of body positioning, being aware of what's happening in your lower back, your hip, your upper back as you're completing a push-up so that you're getting a little bit more out of this movement. And what that'll do is just help transfer to whatever activities you enjoy and being just a little bit more aware of each movement that you're completing. So that's a breakdown of the first week, first challenge. Next one launches on Monday, and I'll give you just a little, head start. It's going to be how many bodyweight squats you can complete in a minute. And this is a valuable test that I use with all the athletes I train, and I'll explain next week why that test is important. But you can get a little bit of a head start getting your mind ready and getting ready to compete again. I challenge you to invite any sort of friends you have that you think would enjoy this. The more data points we get, the more fun this is going to be as we see this data really take shape. And we're going to keep moving forward. Thank you for completing week 1, and I'll see you on Monday for the week 2 challenge.